Do you complain sometimes? I know I do. There's a leadership consultant that says that the average person complains once a minute. I think the average married person may complain twice a minute, depending on how the relationship is. And then other times it's like once every 10 minutes. It just depends on the ups and downs of the thing. So I've been thinking about that, and why so much? There's a major project called Refraining from Complaining, where they ask people to sign up not to complain for a whole month. And 1,000 people signed up for it, and what they all said was it was so incredibly difficult because they started logging how much they were involved in that behavior, and then it was so tough because the only thing that the website tells you is just cut it out, just stop it. That's the action step. Just don't do it anymore. I thought, well, that would really work for me well. But I believe this week I've solved the mystery of complaining. There's possibility that we've actually got the answer to where it all comes from. Janet and I took 2 journeys this week. Journey number 1 was the celebration of my birthday, which is terrific. We got up early. We went to eat a 10,000-calorie comfort food brunch at Oli's Waffle House in Alameda. Have you been there? Get in your car right after church and get down there. I mean, this place is killer. The ham steaks are like as thick as your hand. I mean, they're unbelievable. It was just so cool. Then we walked to a couple of antique stores, which was fascinating because it was like a museum for people who are dead but were never famous. It's their stuff, like dead people's golf clubs. It was really interesting, wondering who they were. Right across the street into the bike shop, where I spent 20 minutes talking bicycles with the staff there, and I am hearing the angels singing. After a brief break at home, we go out to see Ant-Man in a local theater. And despite just that one misstep there at the end, we had an almost perfect day. It was just, I call this journey number 1, and it just filled me up with birthday goodness. It was just so incredible. And then recently also we had what I call journey number 2. Now this is a day off where we decide, let's go to, do you guys know Muir Beach? Have you ever been over there? It's one of the beautiful beach places on the coast of the North Bay. It's really great. So we decide at the last minute we're going to go over there, and it's just going to be tremendous. Jan loves the beach. She loves the outdoors. I find it deeply threatening. And Google Maps tells me that I am right this time because all of the routes to every other beach we go to, which are usually closer, it's all gridlock, and we're lazy. We leave late, and at the last minute we weaken and decide to take our terrier along. This is going to just work out so well. I hear the angels singing in bike shops. My wife hears them at the beach, and my terrier hears them during any ride to anywhere in the car. He just loves it. So we grab our flip-flops and our jackets and a sunblock, all that stuff. Throw it in bags from Target and Trader Joe's and roll out in the car. It's supposed to be a 53-minute trip, but we're hungry. And when I get hungry on the road, I get grumpy and unkind. I'm not a good person, a good believer in Jesus, or a good husband. My wife recognizes this. We pull in at Subway. We order, we water the dog, we feed the dog. We find the bathroom, which is shared with an adjoining Mexican restaurant in an arrangement I have never seen before in North America. We work all of that out, get back in the car, and we're headed out. And from the back, I hear the dog going, That's his way of saying that he wants to be stopped and use the bathroom as well. And he's driving us crazy doing this the whole way along. We get over to the Muir Beach area, and the Google Maps takes us to a lovely overlook of the beach, only a mile away from where we actually want to go with no access. And so we start winding our way back down the road that we came in on, testing one turnoff, another turnoff, another turnoff, another turnoff. We finally find our way back to the sign that we missed on the way to the beach. And we drive down there, and I've got to tell you, your beach is fantastic. It is absolutely beautiful. It's lovely in every way, except for the naked people, which is unnerving, hairy, old. I don't know where they come from, but there's a few of them out there, and so, but you just kind of block that out, and the rest of it is just killer great. It says this is the ultimate day off. It's finally turned around, and everything is really good. An hour later, we need to go home to beat the gridlock on the way back. And so we jump in the car, we take off, we figure what could go wrong. My wife is thirsty. I drive right past the 7-Eleven where I could have gotten her a Coke Zero because I'm a thoughtless and bad husband, and so I just kept going. We see another gas station, we pull in there, find out there is no store there, and we need gas, but they only take cash. Who only takes cash? And we're frustrated. We pull out again. I'm driving home, and now from the back of the car here, flop, 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 flop. You know what that is? That noise? That's really a good guess. It's the, oh, thank God, it wasn't that. It was the gas cap that I had forgotten to put back on, but against my rear fender. Oh, I pull over in a motel parking lot. I put the thing back on. This is journey number 2. And I pull out again, and we find our way almost on the 101 to get home, and we hear this honk, 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 honk. And Jan turns around and realizes there's a driver behind us who is trying to get our attention. We both roll down our windows, and he says to us, "You have something dragging underneath your car." This is my perfect day. We pull into the Chevron station, which actually does take cars, start gassing up the car. I get down on my knees, I look underneath, and there's this large plastic shield underneath the engine, probably of your car too, that protects it from road debris flying up and cutting hoses and breaking parts. We pretty much all have these. We drive an old used Volvo, even 8 years old. That part is probably $40,000. So if it falls out, the parts are incredibly expensive. It's being held by 2 screws. The 2 screws in the front have let go. So I grab a piece of white twine, I bind it up, hook it to a piece of structure inside the engine compartment, and quickly close the hood on top of it, hoping against hope that it will hold until we get home, because if it does not, I am somewhere buying a new one and having someone bolt it on for me. We finally arrive home, and I'm sorry I left. Because I was thinking, man, after the way Journey 1 went, where I heard the angels sing, I'm on fire here. I mean, this trip to the beach is going to be so great. Sure, there could be a few hairy European naked guys, but we'll overlook that, and we'll just enjoy the rest of the time together. If only every day could be Journey 1. Like those people we follow on social media, they're taking selfies in Rome while you're fighting for a parking spot somewhere in the East Bay. Fear of missing out kind of idea. Why is everybody having so much fun except me? Everybody's on journey number 1, and here I'm on journey number 2. Everyone else is in the bike shop listening to the angels singing, and here I am with hairy, ugly, naked Europeans on this beach. Gridlock out, gridlock back, cars falling to pieces. I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm grumpy. It's all bad. Now, our talks this month have been about a man named Moses who led the Hebrews out of slavery in Egypt about 3,500 years ago, depending. And during that trip from slavery in Egypt to the Promised Land in Canaan, he has 4 defining conversations with God. Conversations that anybody who wants to be in the deliverance business, anyone who wants to help other people get free, other people find liberty, is going to have these conversations. Now, I think that's a fairly reasonable assumption. The first one was his calling. What am I supposed to do? The second one was his capacity. Can I really pull this off? Do I have the ability and the credibility? Last week, Jan talked about companionship. Moses' desire to be with God being greater than to accomplish things for God. And today there's a 4th conversation, and it's one that shapes the nature of the other 3. And it's one that you'll be involved in a lot. I think it's one that everybody's involved in a lot. And it happens like this. Have you ever been on a cruise? Carnival? Yeah. My wife and I have 2 different theories of cruises. Now, here's Janet's theory. She believes that a cruise is a week of romantic adventure on the high seas. She believes that we will be holding hands as we look out over the sea from the balcony of our cabin. She believes that we will have nightly dinners with the captain in full dress uniform and that captain's hat at the captain's table in the dining room. She believes that we will have sunset walks around the promenade deck, and that this will be a 7-day festival of food, fun, and romance somewhere on the ocean. This is how my wife sees cruising. Now, here's my theory of cruising. I see cruising as a 7-day struggle for survival against the elements. I see cruising as being locked in a cabin so low in the hull of the ship that we're like the poor people in that Titanic movie, where they locked them all downstairs where it was trying to go under. I see cruising as having weather so bad that we are being flung around the ship like crash dummies in an auto safety experiment. I see cruising as dinner at the captain's table. I don't think so, because the captain has abandoned ship after we run aground, which starts the fire during the norovirus epidemic that has everyone throwing up. This is cruising. This is what it really is. Most of the time we start out thinking this experience is going to be journey number 1, like Jan's theory of cruising. And often it becomes journey number 2, like my theory of cruising. Now, this Exodus thing, really it was only a trip of 120 miles. It's just a little bit further than Sacramento from here. I mean, when you read things in the Bible, they sound like momentous in scale, because in the ancient world, getting 100 yards could sometimes be a struggle. And there was a really easy, convenient road right along the Mediterranean Sea that really could have gotten all of the Hebrews over there, as many as 1 or 2 million of them, in just really a few weeks. It was a month to get over there. But that road was guarded by hostile armies, very dangerous. The Hebrew army has no experience at this point. They're not combat ready. The other problem is God keeps showing up and calling for detours. I want you to stop here. I want you to go there. I'm going to put a cloud of fire in front of you by night, a pillar of cloud in front of you by day. And when it moves, you move. And when it stops, you stop. And you stay stopped for as long as possible. So stop here. Send Moses up the mountain. I'm going to give you the law. I'm going to give you a priesthood. I'm even going to give you a portable place to worship, just like the Shattuck cinemas where you get to set it up and tear it down. We're in that divine tradition of Exodus today. Now, that all sounds very Bible movie and powerful. These stories are just amazing. But for the people making the trip, it was one delay after another. Moses had said we're going to the promised land. He didn't say anything about 40 years. He didn't say anything about walking in a circle. I mean, sure, it's all because of our sins and rebellion against God, like the 8 of them listed just between Numbers 11 and 17. But it's just taking so long. It's unbelievable. And as a result, Journey 1, which is probably what they envisioned in their minds when Moses said to Pharaoh, "Let my people go," they're thinking this is a massive jailbreak. We're going to walk down the road and we're going to be in Canaan. And it turns into Journey 2, and it's long, and it's hard, and they make mistakes, and eventually Moses complains to God that they want to kill me. It's gotten that bad. They spend up 40 years going 120 miles. I thought about calculating how many miles per hour that is, but I thought we'll let that go. It's too many zeros. It probably wouldn't work. Journey 2 has reared its ugly head. When Pharaoh first hears from Moses that it's time to let the Hebrews go to the land of Canaan, he reacts badly. They're working as slaves, building probably warehouse cities to support the expansion of the empire. And instead of saying, "Oh, all right, I fear God will let you go," what he says is, "You're just trying to get 3 days off." That's what and it's the account of it in Exodus 5 and 6 is hysterical. It says, "You're idle. You're idle." In other words, you're lazy. You're just lazy. 3 days to go and worship your God out of the wilderness. You just want off from work. This is like people who try to put a Friday off and a Monday off around a weekend. It's the same idea. So he's complaining, and as a result of that, he makes the conditions harder. There's no straw to make bricks with. There are beatings, and he says all of this to the Hebrew foremen who are leading these many, many hundreds of thousands of workers. They confront Moses and Aaron, and they tell them, "Ever since you came back from that burning bush thing and told us that we were going on Journey 1, things have happened that are so terrible that our life is now worse because you're in it rather than better." Sometimes when you have a setback, it doesn't mean you're not supposed to be in charge. It just means that your task is big and difficult. And so in Exodus 5:22, we read this. "Then Moses turned to the Lord. 'O Lord, why have you done evil to this people?'" Why did you? Have you ever said this to yourself? Why did you ever send me? What were you thinking, Lord? For since I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he's done evil to this people. And this is my favorite part. And you have not delivered your people at all. It's just, you have to hear it in the right tone of voice. You said you would do all this stuff. I went and did what you said, and things have gone down the drain. The first question for God in a complaint is why? It's the question of the Lord's integrity. Is this really going to work out the way that you said it is? You made these promises. Are you really going to fulfill them, God? When I got my complaint on against the Lord, this is what I demand. Why are you doing this to me? Why did you put me in this position? You know, I read the scriptures and the Lord is my shepherd, and it all sounds like journey 1 is going to happen. And here I find myself, after calling and capacity and companionship even, I find myself in this journey 2, and it's this, Lord, this is brutal for me. It's brutal for the people, and what I'm trying to do seems to be making everything worse. You will have that conversation with God. Lots of us have already had it more than once. Why, Lord? Why would you let this happen? The same issue arises on the road to Canaan when they have made the escape and they run out of food, just like me on my trip to the beach. And God responds with a supply of what? What does he provide them in the wilderness? Manna. And manna is, the Hebrew word's funny. It means something like, well, there it is. Look at it. Because that's the response they had when they saw it. It tastes something apparently like if you took Wonder Bread and smashed it into wafers and mixed it with olive oil, it would be like that. Now, manna is wonderful stuff because it is organic, it is vegan, it is locally sourced, it is cage-free. And it is soaked daily. It's there for you all the time. It is constantly fresh. It's like a Berkeley Bowl on steroids. I mean, this stuff is just unbelievable. And every day it shows up with the dew. And so the Hebrews start to eat it in the wilderness, and their problem is solved. Everything is going to be good now, except the stuff is so bland, they get bored with it and begin to complain about it because they have a cultural memory of much spicier foods that the Egyptians cooked. Remember, they were in Egypt for 400 years. They're ethnically Jews, but in many ways they're culturally Egyptian. They miss the spices, the leeks, and the onions by the Nile, and people wax poetic when they're really got their complaint on. You just have a grasp of detail like no other time. I can bring these things to the Lord, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It was better the way it was. You should have left it alone. And Numbers 11 gives us Moses' reaction to all of this. Moses said to the Lord, "Why have you dealt ill with your servant? And why have I not found favor in your sight, that you lay the burden of all this people on me?" It's 1 versus 2 million. Did I conceive all this people? Did I give them birth? This was your idea, God, is what he's saying. That you should say to me, carry them in your bosom as a nurse carries a nursing child to the land that you swore to give their fathers. Why are you doing this to me? Why have you put me in a situation where there's no possible way that it could turn out well for anyone? Here's the second part of his response to the crisis of manna. God has said, okay, if you don't like manna, I'll send you meat provided by flocks of quail that are going to fly in for a month. Where am I to get meat to give to all this people? For they weep before me and say, give us meat that we may eat. I'm not able to carry all this people alone. The burden is too heavy for me. If you'll treat me like this, kill me at once. Don't say that. Don't say that. Kill me at once. This is the level of desperation that this man who worked miracles before Pharaoh, this man who by holding up a stick saw the Red Sea part, this man who, as he is saying these words, the pillar of either cloud or fire is visibly right there in front of him. He could be looking at it while he's saying, this will never work out. Kill me at once. If I find favor in your sight, that I may not see my wretchedness. I don't even want to look in the mirror. Things are so bad. And then in verse 21, but Moses said, the people among whom I am number 600,000 on foot, and you have said, I will give them meat, that they may eat a whole month. Shall flocks and herds be slaughtered for them, and be enough for them? Or shall all the fish of the sea be gathered together for them, and be enough for them? When I ask why I'm questioning God's integrity, when I ask where, Am I going to get all this stuff? I'm questioning my own capacity. A fully equipped soldier, of which there were 600,000 in this army, requires about 3,000 to 3,500 calories a day to be sustained in the field. So just take those thousands and multiply them by 600,000 people, and you get the sheer mass of what it's going to take. Where am I going to come up with all of this? How is this all going to happen? What's going to be the source of everything? This is a great example of a solution that causes another crisis. You know, a solution is just a problem that hasn't happened yet. And so God's provision of the manna solves the food crisis, leads to a second wave of rebellion. His provision of the meat solves the manna crisis, leads to another wave of rebellion. It's like writing an action novel. All you need is an introduction, a conclusion, and 3 crises in between, is what the internet says is the formula. And the second crisis has to be the result of trying to solve the first one. That's exactly what happens here for Moses, our protagonist. Where am I going to get this? So if I'm going to come before God with complaint, it's going to have those 2 ideas driving it. Why have you let this happen? Are you a God of integrity? And where do I come up with the solutions? Am I going to have the capacity? So here's some really good reasons why you should complain to God. This is not a talk about don't complain, church. It's not like that. There's some great reasons to take your complaints and go right to the Lord. Because what's remarkable about this, even when Moses says, oh, just kill me now, things are so terrible, God doesn't drop any judgment on him. He's just sharing the state of his heart, something I think the Lord, being omniscient, knew before he opened his mouth. Here's some great reasons to complain. Number 1, at least you're praying. Sometimes people say, I have so much trouble praying. I try to get up, and then by the time I've made 3 or 4 French press coffees, and I have my day all set, and I've got all my things in my calendar, and I end up checking my email first, and I don't know how to get it all together. And I look at those people on social media, and they're all taking selfies in Rome, and I'm full of envy, and I just, before I know it, boom, 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 and it's the next day, and I haven't prayed. Just start with the stuff you're upset about. Identify your complaints against the Lord. Like, Lord, why have you burdened me with this class? You know I can't do this. Where am I supposed to come up with the cash to replace this car that has just blown out? What am I? Do I look like Superman? Do I have a blue suit and a red S on my chest? There's no way this is going to happen. So if I'm so discouraged about, just erase me, just blot me out now so I don't even have to think about any of this stuff and go bother somebody else. That'll get you started. And you know what? Maybe for the first time in a long time, we'll get out of Jesus bless mommy, and Jesus bless daddy, and Jesus bless Pastor Earl. We'll get past that kind of level of praying, and we'll get into some real heart stuff, something really deep, something that really reaches way down inside of me, where I get to pour out my heart. We say, well, that's so negative. And then what about worship and all of that? And maybe that comes on the other side. But at least you're praying. So if you have to complain about the way God's treating you, or the way your life is, or I just have, I have grievances sometimes. And I want to talk to God's customer service department. Do you know what I mean by that? Like when you get something from Amazon you don't like, and you have to drag it all the way down to UPS to mail it back. It's just how it feels. And I'm like, Lord, who's in charge of customer service? You've got to fix this for me. We're talking. So if it's hard to get prayer sort of jump-started, just pick your complaints. Bring them to the Lord, and that will just start to draw you close. It's the second advantage of complaining to God. It makes me less likely to complain to and about other people. Did you see those shorts he had on at church? Plaid? Really? Shouldn't do it. Because if I know I have a customer service department in heaven that will hear my plea, that knows my needs before I ask, that has the hairs on my head numbers, that is aware of the falling of the smallest bird to the ground, and I can go there with the things that are bugging the daylights out of me, and I can pour my heart out before God and just be raw and real and honest. If you don't believe that's valid, read a few of the Psalms. Oh Lord, how long have you left me? Blah, 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 blah. And those song lyrics are full of that, and that is the worship of Israel. That's Israel's hymn book, if I can go to God with that, then I'm less likely to seek out someone to listen to my complaint about a third party. I'm less likely to pour them out on other people. I'm less likely to have them do damage in social situations. There are times when we've got to do those things because of bad things that have happened or issues that need to be redressed. But a lot of it, not so much. It also prevents those complaints from burrowing into me and becoming the soil where roots of bitterness grow. Because I've got unresolved grievances. If I go to God and say, this is not right, and you know it. You see what grace is there's huge power distance between the two of us, and the Lord just overlooks us because he loves us so much. You don't believe me? Read the Psalms. If I'm able to bring those things to the Lord, they're not going to be like seeds of grumbling and murmuring in my relationship with God. They go down in me and make me bitter and harsh, but keep me soft. The third advantage is, hey, you can get answers. When the Israelites ran out of food and Moses complained, you got meat. When he didn't know where the meat was going to come from, Moses complained, and God sent the quail. And when Moses complained about the burden of the Israelites being too great, he gave him 70 elders to rule over the people with the same spirit that was on him. And God provided answer after answer after answer, where a human being might say, if you're going to complain like that, I'm going to squash you like a bug. God says, oh, all right. Well, let's fix that. He has much better problem-solving skills than I do. So let the complaints. Open your heart to God in prayer. Give him all your junk. The worst, the stuff that's beyond bad. The stuff, past, present, future, it doesn't matter. Just give him all the garbage, all the anger, all the everything. He's big, strong. He won't be deterred. He won't be put off. And by the time you're done with all that, you say to yourself, I think I just prayed. I think I just prayed with passion and with energy, and maybe now I can take the next step into praying in love and worship, and kindness, and gratitude for who God is, and the answers can just start to fall like rain. Lord, today we want to recognize that there is nobody who listens better than you do, that you are so able to receive the harshest accusations that we would throw at you. You're so understanding of our frame. It's just dust. Lord, if you would count iniquities, who could stand? And we thank you, God, for your ability to just take all those words we send at you and to bring back love and grace and the power of your Holy Spirit to bring the answers that we need. There are things that we can only say to you. I ask you for grace from your Spirit this morning to release that ability to connect with you on this really deep heart level, to take us past formulaic, childlike ways of praying the way we think we ought to. Praying out of our true heart, which you know anyway. We thank you for that. We pray in Jesus' name. I'm going to ask you to stand with me for a moment, if you would, please. And we're going to go from our talk this morning directly into our communion service. As you approach this table, bring your top complaint against God, if you've got one. And you may not this morning. But bring it to that table, and when you take that cup and that bread back to your seat, leave that complaint right there on that table. We got it from IKEA, but what you leave there, God's going to just take that right out of your mind. So I'm going to encourage you at this time, if you would proceed to the communion tables, which are on your left and right in the aisle. You can grab a piece of bread and a cup and take them back to your seat if you would. And then it's our custom usually to eat and drink together, so we'll do that in just a moment. And Randy's going to come and lead our communion service.